Happy Monday. We're live, Chaz.
What is up, entrepreneurs? What is up, everybody out there watching? Thank you for being with us. You are tuned into the non-corporate network. This is Entreprenews. Dustin, do you want to tell them a little bit about the format?
Entreprenews. So it's entrepreneur news from entrepreneurs to entrepreneurs. Basically, we take the 6 top headlines in business and essentially just give our 2 cents on them in a matter of 3 minutes. It's a way to quickly give some news in a way that you don't have to tune in to channel 143 at 7 a.m. every day. Basically, modern day news.
Imagine you got ESPN in one car and CNBC in the other car, and they're speeding towards each other, and they just collided. That's what we're doing right here, bringing you business news, a little bit more exciting, coming from some millennials that actually run businesses. But yeah, without further ado, you ready to get this party started, Dustin?
Let's jump right in, man.
I don't think we introduced ourselves today. That intro does a good job of showing my luscious hair. And Dustin, you were a baseball player back in the day as well, huh?
Yeah, I was on the mound though. Didn't really swing a bat too much,
Oh, oh,
but I couldn't throw a
yeah.
ball at the camera. So
Hey man, don't give me that bat. I'll be cracking him over the fence off your weak pitching. Well, without further ado, let's dive in. First story. Andre, you ready? Let's make it happen. Okay, you want your cheer on ESPN? There's an app for that. Sports fans, there's a new app out called Hear Me Cheer, partnering with ESPN. And essentially, you're able to give your 2 cents, just like we're giving our 2 cents on the couch during sporting events. And it'll live stream your boos and cheers and crowdsource them in with everyone else's. Right now, there's 15,000 people using the app. So when your favorite team is playing, you can have a say in the audio. I don't know how this works with, I guess you can have your phone recording while you're watching the game, but with the NBA postseason looking like it's going to come to fruition here at the end of July, it's kind of exciting. It's a new spin. Dustin, what do you think about this trend? What do you think about, giving people a voice from the sidelines?
yeah, no, I think it's definitely an interesting play. I wonder where they're testing it right now. I mean, we have tuned in regularly like South Korean baseball, and so I mean, it'd be interesting to see where it's been tested and how that gets adopted here in the U.S. But I mean, from what it sounds like, it sounds just like a voice chat room. You can tune in to whatever game you want. What'll be interesting though is like the delays between, if you're on the East Coast versus West Coast versus here versus there, how much of a delay there is for whenever you actually see it till you give your cheers or boos and when everyone else can hear it. I mean, it seems like it could get pretty fun, pretty quick. With
Yeah.
all the trash talking to each other. So, I definitely will see what it's like and test it out. I mean, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts? What are the pros and cons
Well,
of this, you think?
yeah, I think that the big thing here is that people want to feel like they're involved. It brings them closer. It makes them more focused on what's happening, and in turn, that means more advertising dollars. And I think this is a great way to show a little bit of attribution for something like ESPN, where they can now track these diehard people, retarget to them, figure out ways to partner from that end with this app. I think would be interesting. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like how much can you invest your customer into the product? And then with that attention, you can now monetize that attention. And so I think that there's definitely an opportunity. And this goes much further than just the NBA postseason. I mean, you've got a lot of different events that could be going on. I think even when we talk about doing virtual events, being able to ask a question live or be able to give your 2 cents when it comes to maybe even like watching a concert live. I think there's a lot of different opportunities here. I don't know what's going to catch fire, but again, it's just the more you're invested in something, the more your attention's going to be on it, the more you can charge that person to be watching whatever it is.
Yeah, I think if I were ESPN, I'd be watching out because it's how many good announcers and everything are going to come from the couch. I mean, it's going to create a whole new type of consuming. I mean, it really will if they can have different rooms for a particular game where it's you're for this team or against that team. I mean, people will have their room where they announce the game and color comment, and I think it'll be really cool. It'll open up a lot of opportunities.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this is yeah. There's no shortage of people on the couch watching. Okay, diving into our next story here. Facebook takes down Trump ads over organized hate policy. This is reported by Reuters, but Facebook Incorporated said on Thursday it took down posts and ads run by the re-election campaign of U.S. President Donald Trump for violating its policy against organized hate. These ads show an inverted red triangle, a symbol that the Nazis used to identify political prisoners, with text asking Facebook users to sign a petition against Antifa. This is definitely a 180 from the last few stories we were talking about, where Facebook had people walking out and there was kind of some internal debate as to what Facebook stood for and if they were going to take a stand. We've obviously seen Twitter really take a harsh stance on policies against organized hate, and they seem to have taken the content moderation very seriously. And so it looks like Twitter has kind of set the bar that Facebook is now kind of answering the call. What are your thoughts on this policy, and what are your thoughts on these social networks really standing up to executive power during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's only a matter of time before it spilled over into the paid arena. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how each platform kind of moves forward, because it's going back to knowing what they can post and can't post. You're kind of limiting the freedom of speech. I mean, kind of same here. One could argue that Antifa is a organized thing that probably shouldn't be around. And I mean, to have a petition going around, I mean, it could be a good thing. It couldn't, whether that's for me to say, you to say. I mean, it's the social media companies are now determining what you can and can't put money behind. So I mean, it'll just be interesting to see what they do say, or what they say can or can't be run as a paid ad. I mean, obviously, what you just mentioned, the creative and all that, it definitely resembles something not so great. But this is the first one. It'll be interesting to see how many more get impacted, whether they can or can't
Right.
run. What are
Yeah,
your
man.
thoughts?
No, I think that first off, like, social media should be the voice of the people. And so with billions of people using it, I think that they should have a little bit more of a say. And obviously, far and wide, people have been pushing to have Facebook to support what's happening in America and Black Lives Matter. And I think that this is a step in the right direction. But obviously, like you said, we're now setting a precedent that not only is Facebook going to challenge what you're putting money behind, limit the freedom of speech, regardless of if it's organized hate or not. I think that it's something that is setting a precedent. And obviously, they have a call to action here saying sign a protest against Antifa. I look at it as something where it's like, they can control the narrative across the board. What's the next policy that you're going to be signing a protest for? Maybe it's something that is a little less controversial than Antifa, but still something that they're bringing to light, as opposed to, consumers finding out for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it sets a precedent. So now it'll be interesting to see how it moves forward. I mean, at the end of the day, he said it's to sign up for a protest, which Antifa is doing protesting. So I mean, both are protests. I mean, how can you say one's hate, one's not? And so, I mean, it'll just be interesting to see how that evolves. Like you said, it's precedents is set. Only time will tell.
Yep. Only time will tell. Moving on to our next story. U.S. unemployment claims rise 1.5 million as pandemic pain continues. The pace of U.S. layoffs has slowed sharply since their peak in April at 6.6 million, but still remain historically high. Looks like analysts are saying that we're going to be hovering around 10% unemployment by the end of the year. This is interesting to us. And obviously, we thought that the coronavirus would kind of have subsided by now. We'd be starting to get back to our normalized kind of life. but it seems as if there's going to be a new normal. So, what are your thoughts as these unemployment claims climb? And yeah, what do you think? What do you make of all this?
Yeah, I mean, the thought of round two coming back, I mean, is definitely a reality. China's seeing it. I mean, here in Arizona, we're seeing it. Other parts of the country are seeing it. I mean, there are declines in certain areas of the country from what I was looking at today. But I mean, in terms of the unemployment, obviously, it's horrible that that many people are you know claiming unemployment. But I mean, as you mentioned, it's a sharp decline in where we were at, and so it's all about trends. Jobs are coming back. I think. I mean, this is we should be expecting to see that only because the PPP loan money is going to start running out, even though they've extended it. But people have kind of budgeted that way, and so there are going to be some
Right.
businesses that run out that can't have the jobs anymore. So it's not going to be a smooth road overnight, but at least we're trending in a positive direction, even though the narrative is still kind of doom and gloom right now. But it's at least there are people getting back to work, even though there are unemployed, you know,
Well,
increasing.
I would venture to say that there's plenty of businesses out there that are probably, I wouldn't say necessarily abusing triple P, but there's businesses out there that I'm sure are kind of distributing the money that they've been given, right? They have to give it out in 8 to 12 weeks, and so they're spending the money, and people are obviously sitting on cash and making more deposits in the bank. But I'm just my big thing, and I've said it before, is the phase change that we have to have as a society. I see so many more businesses that are laying people off, or just absolutely just phasing out job roles that they had in their company. And I just really think that the government is looking at this from an unemployment standpoint and going, oh, look, we're down in unemployment. Look, we're amazing. We're doing a good job. And it's like, businesses are not really focusing on employment. They're focusing on profitability, which is not hand in hand with employment. When you have AI that can start to replace jobs, you don't need as many people. It's just going to increase the profit of the business. So I think that with businesses chasing this profitability and productivity mark, where government's chasing, unemployment, it just doesn't seem to align for me.
Yeah, and that's why I'm excited to see that there's more conversations around creating stimulus around hiring, getting jobs, and all that. So I mean, now that it was kind of stop the bleeding, let's promote hiring again and see how that gets impacted. So on
Yep.
to our next story. So there's a company called Lightspeed that has introduced kind of a suite for helping non-e-commerce businesses turn e-com. They help you figure out how to turn your products into online shoppable products. They help you productize your services. They help with e-commerce, the marketing. I mean, basically, they're trying to create a tool that's all in one to help businesses that haven't been, onto the e-commerce phase.
Mhm.
Getting them on. What are your thoughts on all-in-one platforms? I know, they're good in some ways, but interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, obviously, you start throwing the kitchen sink at consumers, then it becomes a little bit of an uphill battle where it's kind of an oxymoron, right? It's like, oh, we're all in one. You only need to come to one place to get all of your stuff, and then you kind of turn around, you're like, oh, wow, it sounds like it's going to be this simplified version, and then you get on the product, and there's 75 buttons on the homepage, and you're like, holy crap, what do I do? So I think that it's going to create some nausea for consumers if it's not the simplest platform. But I will say that there's a lot of white space. I mean, I compare this to the web, like web development platforms. You've got your WordPress, which is notoriously a little bit less user friendly, but very kind of malleable in terms of what you can use it for. But then you have your Wix and your Squarespace, where it's a little bit more simplified, drag and drop. And so when I think of Shopify, in the e-commerce space, it seems to be more of a WordPress, in the sense that, and WordPress is its own with the WooCommerce and the e-commerce space. They're both a little bit more high level in terms of the learning curve to be able to maximize those platforms. But then you have Wix and Squarespace and make it a little bit easier to just get a website out. And so I think that, yeah, there's definitely white space. And when there's a trend like e-commerce, it's growing as rapidly as it is, it's going to be an arms race to get to profitability and find some white space in this industry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. The all-in-one always sounds good from a marketing perspective. Sweet. I don't have all these different tools I got to hop in and out of. It's all in one tool. But the downfall is the navigation, the figuring it all out. It's almost like you're a jack of all trades, a master of none. That's how this platform could be.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, well, it gets me about 80% of the way there on everything, but not 100% of the way. So, but yeah, I mean, as we've mentioned quite a bit recently, that there's definitely a huge increase in online shopping, just the e-commerce. So they're definitely leaning into that overall e-commerce trend. Whether they take that, they help with the marketing, the all-in-one, whether that's a good play, only time will tell. I think who their audience is. It's definitely a good audience. I mean, most people really cater to those who are already selling online. This is one of the first companies that I've seen where they actually
Yeah.
help companies that don't have an presence to actually figure out how to get online.
Well, I think that that's a big piece to this, right? Like people are going to be hesitant. They're dipping their toe in the water, but it's a necessity now in business. There's no, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, it was like, well, it'd probably be strategic, but now it's like, especially a lot of businesses that can't be open right now. You have to be doing this. So I think now is as good a time as any to be launching an e-commerce product like this.
Yep. And if you aren't going to the e-commerce route, that kind of leads us into our next story. Your favorite company, Yelp, has come out with kind of a guidance of what consumers are looking for in order to shop in store again. The list includes social distancing enforcement, sanitizing between customers, staff wearing masks, hand sanitizers available, limited capacity, contactless payment, temperature checks, and mask requirements. All makes sense to me, but one that really sticks out is the contactless payment. I mean, I've been really saying this for a while. It's like, cool, we're social distancing, we're doing all that, we're washing our hands, that's all great, but everyone is running their debit card and then typing in their PIN number. Whenever we could be doing Apple Pay, or I mean, I love whenever there's Apple Pay, I can use my watch. And so it's like, even though we're taking all these measures, there's nothing being done at gas stations, the PIN code and all that. So I mean,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this list and just
Yeah. No, man, I was at the grocery store the other day and they had a produce bag wrapped around the pin pad. I was like, this isn't necessarily making it any cleaner. Everyone's still touching the bag that it's wrapped around. It just looks terrible on top of that. But yeah, no, I mean, notoriously, I'm not a Yelp fan. I'm still not a Yelp fan. They could go and feed the homeless, and I wouldn't be a Yelp fan. So, but I think that with that being said, I think that this is something that it makes sense, right? And I think it's going to trickle down across the board, whether it's Google My Business or any other platform that helps kind of organize these local businesses. People want that kind of insurance policy before they go out. People are worried about their kids, especially right now with what's happening in Arizona, with people being very weary that coronavirus is, in a bunch of invisible places. There's a lot of older people in Arizona. I think that, these are things where people want to have that insurance policy where before maybe you were searching a business and wanting to just see reviews of, how it was. Now this almost becomes a more powerful piece to the equation, and it just gives people kind of the instant gratification they're looking for, the questions that they want to have answered. And so I've always said the biggest part of marketing is being able to address the objections of a customer before they can ask them, or before they can kind of object to it. And so I think this is going to address that. So I've got to throw out an olive branch to Yelp here. I think it's a good idea, and they're doing it before Google My Business, so that's impressive.
Yep. No, I agree. And I mean, what it comes down to is just seeing how many people actually execute. I think the biggest thing that people want is the enforcement. You talk about, masks being needed, yet you walk into a place and it's not enforced. I think that's
Right.
a huge piece of it. But I mean, I just still stick on that contactless payment. It seems like
Yeah,
there's
it's a matter of time before that's just standard. I'm surprised that like there isn't some kind of law in place where they're forcing people to use certain like POS systems. But yeah,
Yep. And on to our final story. So, U.S. banks are swimming in cash right now. Essentially, deposits have increased by $2 trillion amid the coronavirus. Something that really stuck out was that deposits grew by 865 billion in April, which is more than the highest year in total. So I mean, it's in 1 month there were more deposits made than an entire year ever before. So I mean, it's interesting to see, people being laid off, yet people's savings accounts are skyrocketing. I mean, a huge chunk of it could be because of higher unemployment, you getting paid more than when you were working, the Trump stimulus, all these other things. But with my question is this going to impact overall spending once things open up? People feel, a little bit safer. Is, a huge flood of spending going to happen?
History repeats itself. This is something that is maybe not to this scale, but has happened a few times. And I think that, it's, I don't like having a company like Bank of America be able to have the leverage that they have, and these other corporate entities, Wells Fargo, like, I just don't like the fact they have this kind of leverage. And that's why I think you see how big stuff like Robinhood has gotten, how big stuff like cryptocurrency like Coinbase has gotten. It's because people are already kind of looking at the alternatives, especially the millennials and the younger generations are looking at alternatives going, why not challenge the status quo of I've got to have my money at this bank. They're going to give me 0.01% interest on my savings account, and they're going to charge me $30 a month just to have my money in the account. And I mean, especially these big banks. But I just look at it and go, why are we not challenging the status quo? And now they're richer than ever, and they have even more leverage than ever. And so I just don't think they're going to be forced to do the right thing. They're going to continue to, just squeeze money out of people. And they know that if you're holding on to your money, that they're going to find ways to make money off the fact they're holding on to your money. And so yeah, I challenge anybody out there, do a little bit of reading on bank lists and cryptocurrency. I think that these are things that can come to fruition, but us as consumers have to push those forward, or we're going to be stuck at the mercy of banks for the rest of the time.
Yeah, that was one thing that was noted on this, was that, if you're already hating the interest rates on your savings account, you're going to hate it even more. With the influx of cash, they don't have to, give as
It's
high
BS.
yield there. I mean, I know that there's banks like Howlai Bank, I think it is, and they're giving 1.7 or 2.7 interest on your savings. I mean, it's 100% digital. They don't own a branch, but I think we're going to start seeing more and more banks offer better interest rates because these big banks just have all the leverage and offer nothing. And so it's just like
Yeah.
everything else. Offer more competition to the consumer. You'll then take market share, and then it'll be a completely different industry. So,
Please, people out there listening, do your research, check out what the bankless system looks like. I mean, there's a lot of companies coming out that are trying to challenge the status quo, but it takes us kind of doing our research and not just staying comfortable with our crappy banks. I'll tell you what's not crappy though. Are we still with Avantage? Avantage.com. Thank you, Avantage, for being supporters of the pod and for being supporters of Entreprenews. We really appreciate you guys' support. And guys, if you sign up for Avantage, you get $150. Straight up. Sign up, you get $150. You can use that on any of the 1,000+ offers they have on that website. So if you're looking to get some kind of local service, whether it's cleaning your house, whether it's there's far and wide, there's 50 different categories of services. So check them out, sign up today, free $150 in your bank account. Not a better deal than that out there. The banks aren't offering you that.
definitely not. Definitely not.
What else you got, Dustin? Anything you want to say before we wrap up here?
No, just if you have a TV show that you're wanting to start that's geared towards business or entrepreneurs, we'd love to chat and do something like this for you. Produce the show, do the post production, and everything like that. We're just all about transferring knowledge from those who are executing and doing well in entrepreneur land, and pass that on to others. And so that's what it's all about: creating a sense of community, helping others, and leveraging knowledge. And I think there's nothing but good that can come from it, and we'd love to help be part of that.
And we want to be the unbiased source of information. There's a lot of people out there that are wondering what politician and what lobbyist is in the pocket of the media company. The only people in our pockets are people that are other entrepreneurs. And, we're here to bring you the unfiltered truth. And yeah, like Dustin said, we want to work with you. If you got something you want to bring to the world, if you've got a couple of stories that you want to just share with us, get involved with us. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us at ncnbroadcast.com. We want to work with you. We want to help you to share your stories. But yeah, with that, thank you guys for being with us. Again, you've been watching the Non-Corporate Network. This is Entreprenews. My name is Chaz Vandemotter.
Dustin Trout.
And we appreciate you guys being with us this morning. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll be back on Friday. We're going to keep grinding, keep hustling. We know you guys are. Gig economy is growing, Dustin. There's 45 million people unemployed. That tells me there's 45 million people that are going to have a job doing something in the gig economy. You're going to have a job doing something entrepreneurial. So we want to lift you up, but join the revolution. And we will see you on Wednesday.
See you guys on Wednesday.